What's going on, Fanduel fam? Welcome into the final regular season show here on the Fanduel YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. And we're here to talk about week 18, the best week of the season because of all of the question marks that we have, all of the incentives that we have. We got playoff implications coming through, and hopefully all of your fantasy championships are over. If you guys are playing fantasy championships in week 18, you can feel free to reach out to me, DM me, and I will reach out to your commissioner because that's an absolute travesty. But I digress. We're going to get into week 18 here. I'll let you guys come in. I appreciate everybody who's been rocking along with the FanDuel channel all season long. You guys can subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're interacting with the videos. We appreciate all the thumbs up, even some thumbs down I've seen, and we appreciate that so we know what we can do better. Also hit that notification bell so you see every time that we go live. We do it all season long throughout the NFL season. We got NBA coming at you guys with Tom Vecchio. A lot of fun stuff that we're doing here at the FanDuel channel, and that's only going to continue as we get into the NFL playoffs. But before we do that, we got to talk about this week 18 slate, and this is going to be a fun one. As I said, there's you've seen all week about what teams are playing for what, and you probably think okay, we got some situations here where like San Francisco's playing the Rams, and that San Francisco's basically playing for their playoff lives, and the Rams could potentially move seeding depending on if they win. Tampa Bay, they could maybe lock up the 2 seed there if something happens in that Rams 49ers game. A lot of things to kind of discuss. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are pretty much playing long shot, but they could be going in to the playoffs here depending on how games go around them. Indy as well, Tennessee as well, they're trying to lock up the 1 seed now with Kansas City having won yesterday. So a lot of fun stuff to kind of go through, comb through. I'm here to do that with you guys. If you want to talk player props on the FanDuel Sportsbook, if you want to talk about DFS lineups, we can get into that. I'm gonna pull up my DFS lineup here as we kind of go through the day. And I think the favorite spot for me right now is looking at Tom Brady. Tom Brady is, and let me hold on 1 second. Let me get the right screen up here with you guys so you know what exactly I'm talking about. But want to talk about Tom Brady, and we'll get it here. Here we go. Share that. And so Tom Brady, he comes in today, and we just saw last night with Dak Prescott, who we thought a lot about the starters resting in that Dallas game. And looking in hindsight, that's kind of the tough thing that people have to decipher here in week 18 is you think guys may be sitting or may not be pulled or whatever, but some of these things, kind of mean a lot more to the teams than others. Jerry Jones had been on all last week saying that they were going to play to win, didn't matter. They were going to get ready, go into the playoffs like hot, warm. Dak Prescott's playing, Zeke's playing, all the guys are playing. And not a lot of people wanted to play that last night. And we also looked at Dak Prescott, who if he threw for 5 touchdowns, he was going to break Tony Romo's single season record for touchdowns for the Dallas Cowboys. He actually ended up doing that. And in pretty powerful fashion, gets that there. And so Tom Brady, he has a couple things where he could go. I think he needs just under 500 yards to be the single season leading passer in NFL history. Like, you don't think that means anything to Tom Brady after Antonio Brown's just running his name through the mud last week? I think that means a lot. They could actually, they're going to be in the same spot are playing in the same prime time or afternoon slate as the San Francisco Rams game. So maybe they're a little bit scoreboard watching, seeing how that's done. But Tom Brady can come out here and really explode. And we want certainty, at the quarterback position when we're talking about these guys. I mean, we're looking at quarterbacks here. And Josh Allen, he's 8,800. Kyler Murray, 8,400. I kind of talked about him in my FanDuel Hurry Up this week. If you guys check that out with my DFS studs, Kyler Murray was one of the 3 players that I talked about. Arizona is playing in a meaningful game there. Seattle doesn't have anything to play for, but they didn't have anything to play for really last week. And they put up a 50-burger, highest scoring team on the Sunday slate. And then we're looking at Russ. This could potentially be his last game in Seattle. Who knows? But that game could be really interesting from a DFS standpoint. Aaron Rodgers, don't know how much he'll play. He said he wants to play. MVP's on the line. He's 8,200, but he could easily rest. We've already seen Aaron Jones ruled out, and you can see A.J. Dillon already in my lineup there. They haven't elevated any running backs, so I believe it's Patrick Taylor or I'm going to botch his name, but there is a backup behind A.J. Dillon, but A.J. Dillon's going to be the lead guy here. So we should at least get a half out of him, if not more. We know Joe Burrow's not playing. Lamar Jackson's not playing. So then we get down to like Taysom Hill, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, if you can feel like you can trust them. I mean, we want assurances in our DFS lineups for week 18. That leads me to Tom Brady. And then who else to stack Tom Brady with? But we got to go with the boy, Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski comes in at 7,400. He just is coming off of a game last week against the Jets where he saw 10 targets, 7 catches for 115 yards. Now, the interesting thing about Rob Gronkowski is that he has some incentives that go along with this. Gronk needs 7 catches to earn $500,000. He also needs 85 receiving yards for another $500,000. So a lot of money on the line for Rob Gronkowski there to have a good game today. And that is why we absolutely love pairing him with Tom Brady. It absolutely makes sense. No Antonio Brown, Mike Evans. Now Mike Evans needs about 50 some so yards to hit 1,000 yards, which would open him up, I believe, at 9 consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards. He already had the record for that, but he could be in a situation like Devonta Smith last night. Devonta Smith, he needed a certain number of yards to pass Deshaun Jackson for the rookie receiving record for Philly. As soon as he hit that, he was pulled out of the game. This could be the same thing for Mike Evans, where they look to, take him out. Maybe they want to get Brashad Perryman some more looks. Cyril Grayson, who has been a DFS stud. Actually, he's not in my lineup here, but I did put Keyshawn Vaughn here with the Tampa Bay D. Depending on what happens in this earlier slate, as my, you see my lineup here, I got a couple of guys in the early slate. I could pivot to Cyril Grayson there instead of Keyshawn Vaughn, and then up Tampa Bay D to the Buffalo Bills D, which the weather in Buffalo is actually looking pretty dicey. So Buffalo D has me a lot intrigued to play them against the Jets, especially when they're looking at, 16-point favorites, 16-point home favorites. So that could be a good way to get exposure to Buffalo if you're not playing any one of their lineups. Shout out to Joe Pook, who's coming in on the Fanduel channel here on YouTube, asking about Montgomery, Mitchell, Penny, and Foreman. I believe Donta Foreman pick 2. I'm going to go with Donta Foreman. You can see he's in my FanDuel lineup right there. Comes in at $6,900 price tag. It is on the road, but this is a revenge narrative for Donta Foreman. Played for Houston for some time, gets to return back there. No Derrick Henry back this week. Tennessee in a game where they need to win to lock up the number 1 seed there. I think that Donta Foreman gets a lot of run. Absolutely love him. Now, between Montgomery, Mitchell, and Penny, I think really you're looking at Mitchell and Penny there. Montgomery is just he's tough to get behind. When we look at, let's pull him up here just on the FanDuel channel. He comes in at 7,600. I don't have really any Montgomery exposure. Really looking at the pass catcher, Mooney specifically in that game. He has seen the attempts there. You're liking that 22, 21. I mean, look at the targets, 9, 6, 7 on 3 of his last 4. And putting up some relatively numbers. But if he doesn't find pay dirt, look at this, 3 touchdowns in the past 2 games. You could be left a little bit disappointed because he's not reaching that 100-yard mark. Hasn't done so since the Detroit game in October. So for me, I like Mitchell, who's going to be, San Francisco has their fate. They control their own destiny here in the playoffs. I think they're going to, really try to get him the rock. Nobody wants to trust Eli Mitchell, and he's been doing it all year. And then Rashad Penny, I like the pass catchers more in that game against Arizona, but I think he has some merit. So for me, Donta Foreman and then Eli Mitchell would be my 2. But Penny would probably be a close second to Mitchell I would probably avoid Montgomery in this matchup here. Let's bring in Eric here on the YouTube channel as well. Eric asking, what do you think about the Browns defense today compared to Buffalo and Tampa Bay? Eric, I absolutely love the Browns defense today. They were one that I was kind of looking at when Joe Burrow got ruled out. They're 4,500 now. They're kind of in an awkward spot, right? When you think about it, because they're the same price tag as Buffalo, and they're only $300 more than Tampa. So I would really like to play the Cleveland Browns defense with Deontay Johnson. I didn't get to that on this lineup, but I do have another lineup that's reeling. When we look at Deontay Johnson, who comes in at 6,200 here, I think he's going to be forgotten about, and we see, seeing kind of some middling action here. But we have no Kareem Hunt. We have basically, a lot of starters on Cincinnati side who aren't going to be playing or not going to be playing the full game. I see no reason why they would run Chubb a full allotment in this game. It just doesn't make that much sense to me. But I think that we can still see a little bit of reprieve with Deontay Johnson coming in. So I like stacking the two of them there. I mean, just you're getting the backup quarterback for Cincinnati. Samaje Perine is very popular, but I don't really like his outcome, especially with all the other spots that we're getting opened up. So really like the Browns defense today. I think you could really, get some action there with them forcing some turnovers, getting some sacks, and absolutely love where they're coming in at, because not a lot of people will be on them. So love that question, Eric. Wanted to touch on some other things on the lineup here as well. So I got D'Onta Foreman, didn't have a run back there. I do have some interest in Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. And actually, let's talk about the quarterback position again, because we're talking about certainty and maybe feeling uncomfortable in some of these lineups. And I want to scroll down here. He's all the way down, but let's talk about Davis Mills here. Davis Mills has, look at his box scores. He's not putting up, world-beating numbers here, but at least we know he's going to be the guy. I mean, he's probably going to be the future, depending on what happens in Houston and who they retain. They drafted this guy to come in and kind of be that guy potentially after, the Deshaun Watson fiasco and what's going on with Tyrod Taylor, who's getting older. So Davis Mills, he's been kind of in the mix, and we know he has a huge rapport with Brandon Cooks. And if Tennessee is putting up points in this game, I do like D'Onta Foreman. I do like A.J. Brown to a certain extent, even considering Ryan Tannehill. But on the other side, let's talk about Davis Mills, who nobody would want to play. He opens up a lot of salary where you could, possibly get in a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who's priced up at 10-2, but feel confident about that. You compare him with two pass catchers that I think, in Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins, who would really, really you could feel good about the target share going to those two guys. So definitely like that. If you're looking to build around some things in that game, I think people will just put in D'Onta Foreman like I did and not consider a run back or not consider the other options on how he gets there. But an aggressive team on Houston side, they've been playing to win games the past couple of weeks. One seed be damned. So they're interesting as well. Wanted to talk about as well, kind of the mini stack that I had with AJ Dillon and then running it back with Ahmad St. Brown. But let's bring in Ryan here, who's coming in on YouTube, asking about Antonio Gibson or Michael Carter. Listen, Ryan, these are two guys that I looked at too. Let's pull them up here as we get into the running back position. Antonio Gibson, who, he comes in at 6,800 against the Giants. He's just been so injury riddled. I just don't know. I don't understand or I don't see a path to how they could be playing him the full allotment of snaps in this game. Chance for re-injury there. We've seen him, really not even barely reaching 20 touches, in games. And that makes it hard for me. Whereas Michael Carter is going to be the main back for the Jets here today. I think they had some inactives come out, and I want to pull that up as well. But he doesn't have an injury designation coming in today, and we've seen him kind of explode in games. Whether that's in the passing game, there you got to go all the way back to see some target shares that are really immense there for him. But they're gonna, the weather is bad there. They're going to run the ball, I think, and maybe keep the ball at Zach Wilson's hands for as long as they can. Him coming in at a $5,800 price tag really opens up your lineups a lot. If you like the Buffalo stacks, or even if you want to play just him as a solo one-off, I think that can make some merit to play, especially if we have inactive surrounding him. I haven't seen, let's see if they have it updated here as we get into the afternoon slate for them. But Ty Johnson, Tevin Coleman, I'm not sure what these guys' status are, but he is going to. Oh, they activated Tevin Coleman from COVID. I see there. So yeah, interesting merit, but I would lean Michael Carter for sure over Antonio Gibson. They have Jared Patterson in Washington and I believe Jonathan Williams as well to kind of spell him. So I don't see a reason why to run Antonio Gibson that hard in week 18, but it's possible that it could happen. Washington is 6-point road favorites going against the New York Giants, which you do love. Wanted to get back to this lineup here, playing Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,500. This dude has been an absolute stud. I'm hoping that people don't, pay him or pay up for him because he's 7,500. And when we're looking at the wide receiver state of the slate, let's go here. Let's go back to all the games, pull up wide receivers and where he's coming in at. Okay, so we don't know about Jamar Chase. I don't think, we're going to be going to play him with the backup. Mike Evans, I've already talked about him potentially resting. So, okay, he falls into Stephon Diggs' range. If people are playing Josh Allen, they're going to play Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs actually has some incentives going along too that I can touch on. Deontay Johnson. I know this Pittsburgh-Baltimore game catching a ton of steam now with Tyler Huntley. The Mark Andrews has a chance to be, the leading tight end receiver in a single season. AJ Brown, I think, will get some merit. Seattle receivers will definitely get some steam, and so will Brandon Cooks. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of gets forgotten about, and Jared Goff was ruled active today, which we were not expecting to happen. So you get that late news there, and he's absolutely been a favorite target of Jared Goff's. Look at this target share over the past couple of games: 12, 12, 11, 11, 11, with no less than 8 catches in any one of those games, only hitting the 100-yard mark one time, but touchdowns in 4 or 5 games, putting up monster numbers there. And we could get Green Bay, maybe not backup, so to speak, but Green Bay, with them potentially not playing Aaron Rodgers for the full allotment of snaps. I mean, this could just be, Green Bay could just go out there, and if it's, kind of a tough battle, or if they get up to a big lead, he could just, go out there, be out there and kind of make a name for himself. This rookie receiver has been absolutely stellar. And I love building lineups around him because I think he'll go under the radar. Shout out to Game Eye Philosopher coming in on YouTube channel. We appreciate you, man. What's going on? What's up, FanDuel? What's up to you, Game Eye? Hopefully you have a fun day as well. Hopefully we can make you some money here on the FanDuel slate. Guys, we got about 15 or maybe 10, 12 minutes or so left here. Make sure you're getting your questions. I'll answer some DFS lines for you guys. We're going to have Jessica Gridiron and Wine is where you can find her on Twitter. She's going to be joining here at the half-hour mark to talk about some best bets for Week 18. So that's always fun to pick her brain, get her leans on where she's coming in at on some of these games here. We got a full Sunday left of games. I got some fun ones to talk about with her. I want to see what she's feeling about Tampa Bay and that line. I want to see how she's feeling about San Francisco and the Rams, with San Francisco really having the Rams number with Shanahan versus Sean McVay there. And then we got the Chargers and Raiders game that will definitely be talked about there, with the winner getting in. I know there's been some interesting narratives talked about with the Chargers and the Raiders there. If they, if something were to go awry and they were to tie, both teams could make it. I think it's if the Colts lose to Jacksonville, which is very, very intriguing, very interesting. I know Roger Goodell probably hates that. So that's fun to talk about. Guys, let's get back to the DFS lineup here. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll talk about some of these other studs here too. But finally, just closing out the lineup here with Michael Pittman and DJ Moore. Michael Pittman is a guy that I kind of got on later on in the week, and it was just on the sense that, okay, so Indy has one of the highest implied totals on the slate. I believe coming in at 27 or so points. They project them to be scored. Let me make sure I know. 29 points projected for the Indianapolis Colts. They come in at tops of the slate there with Buffalo just right behind them. So, okay, so we expect points to be scored. If we're not having Jonathan Taylor in our lineup, like, somebody has got to be in that lineup. And let's just play Michael Pittman there. The numbers haven't been there as of late, but going up against this matchup with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road, the secondary does not throw out anybody who we should be afraid of. If Carson Wentz can lean on Michael Pittman here and the touchdowns go a different way than Jonathan Taylor, I think this, has real merit to be an excellent tournament play with Michael Pittman being in there as a one-off. Not running back any Jacksonville guys if you don't want to have to guess on that. And instead, let's run back DJ Moore. DJ Moore coming in at $6,100. This is one of my favorite plays of the week. The stats won't look there, but okay, Tampa Bay pass funnel defense. I love the Tom Brady stack, so they got to do something on the other side. I think we're still getting Sam Darnold at quarterback here today, and he's been kind of targeting DJ Moore. And we don't have Robbie Anderson as well in this game. I believe Robbie Anderson. Let me pull up this game here that's coming in. Robbie Anderson, he looks questionable now, game time decision, but I think he is going to get ruled out. We know that they placed Terrace Marshall on the IR. So then we're looking at the likes of, I think it's Brandon Zulstra. Yeah, Brandon Zulstra, who's $4,800, $300 over the minimum. He saw, just 3 offensive snaps last week, but he could be in line for more work. And then there was another guy I saw being talked about as well too, but basically, backups to the backups who are going to be playing with DJ Moore there. DJ Moore only coming in at $6,100. Absolutely love him in this matchup as well. And definitely, going to be real bullish on him if I'm able to make the swap here to Grayson over Vaughn. Then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talk about Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn Vaughn coming in at $5,900. We saw him kind of get a little bit of work last week. But we know that there's no Ronald Jones. He was in a walking boot. He's not going to be playing today. Leonard Fournette is not going to be playing as well on IR. So we're looking at Keyshawn Vaughn and Le'Veon Bell. Now, if you don't have a lean on that, I can agree with you because Le'Veon Bell came in and he actually, saw some of the red zone work there last week. So they could be really looking to get him going, especially with how they're going to be depleted in that backfield going into the playoffs. And we know that Ronald Jones has kind of upset Tom Brady in the past, not, doing good in pass protection, not catching balls out of the backfield. That's what led to playoff Lenny last year. So maybe they want to get Le'Veon Bell, the Rock, and going a little bit. He's only $5,200. He does make for an interesting play and leverages. I think more popular will be Keyshawn Vaughn. I'm still kind of playing around with that. But Keyshawn Vaughn was a guy that they drafted. Bruce Arians, coach speak, if you want to believe it or not, he said that was going to be their lead guy, and they were going to give him all the carries that he could handle. So, that's kind of what led me to Keyshawn Vaughn there. Bring back Eric here on the YouTube channel. Eric asking about Justin Jefferson breaking Randy Moss's record. Now, I want to pull that up. I think it's, what was it? 124-ish yards, I think, is what Justin Jefferson needs in order to break Randy Moss's record. And I do think that there is merit to that. I know that he's been a very popular play in the fantasy community. Let's go to this game here. He's $8,500. That price tag, it doesn't, there's, I would try and find the 1,500 or whatever it is to get up to cup. But, there is some merit here to play Justin Jefferson with this secondary. Not really able to stop a lot of guys for Chicago. And we saw in the earlier matchup there, he did see, 10 targets, but it was kind of a rough game. But Kirk Cousins, being active for this game, I think, they definitely are trying to play for something, whatever that is. Maybe Mike Zimmer's job, I'm not sure. But, this Minnesota-Chicago game is definitely interesting and has been picking up some steam. Justin Jefferson, I believe, averages over 100 yards against the Chicago Bears team. He's averaging over 100 yards in home games. Minnesota is at home this week. They are favored by 3.5. I think it opened at 3.5 now. So love Justin Jefferson. I would pair him with Kirk Cousins, who's 7,200, just because if he's I guess you could just make the bet on him breaking that record. But if you're talking about from DFS lineups, let's play Kirk Cousins here, who had a rough go in Chicago not too long ago, but weather kind of played a factor into that. Now getting to play, in the dome there at home against this team who they've already, Bears beats are already talking about. Matt Nagy has been told he's going to be fired after this game. So, Kirk Cousins pairing him with Justin Jefferson, if Justin Jefferson's having that boom game to really pay off that $8,500 price tag, I think Cousins could go along with little to no ownership. And then the run back there has to be Darnell Mooney. I mean, Allen Robinson, this is last game, but he's not really playing for anything. He's going to probably hit the free agency market and see what he can get there. Maybe Dalton tries to get him a couple looks, but the looks have really been going to Darnell Mooney, who's been an absolute target hog with Andy Dalton in the lineup there. Hasn't hit that 100-yard mark in quite some time, but, did see 7 targets against Minnesota the last time around. Minnesota secondary cannot hang with Darnell Mooney. So love getting to Darnell Mooney. Even Darnell Mooney and Justin Jefferson mini stack, but if you want to full stack that game, maybe you want to play Dalvin Cook over an AJ Dillon or over, pay down for him instead of going to a Jonathan Taylor, I think makes a ton of sense there. So love getting exposure to that Chicago-Minnesota game. Let's bring in Irish here on YouTube. PPR, you're asking about Marvin Jones, KJ Osborne, Gabe Davis, or A-Rob. Well, I just pretty much talked about why I don't like Allen Robinson, so he's probably going to be fourth for me there. Gabe Davis is interesting. It's just the weather there in Buffalo. And Beasley, this kind of feels like a Beasley game for me, just the way that the Jets secondary kind of play. You can attack them through the slot. So I see Beasley over Gabe Davis having a bigger game. So really it comes down to Marvin Jones and KJ Osborne. Now, Marvin Jones, he has some incentives going along. I think he needs like four catches to hit an incentive for him, 250,000 or something like that. He's very interesting, but he's been so hard to trust this year. Let's talk about KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne, we were just talking about Justin Jefferson, and in the same game, playing with Kirk Cousins, playing against the Chicago Bears team at home, he's been absolute stud. I mean, he was even reeling in points last week with Mannion when everything looked dead. He was able to make some things happen. So KJ Osborne's been filling in nicely for Adam Thielen as Adam Thielen went on the IR. Love KJ Osborne this week in PPR formats. Actually, if you're talking about game stack there, I would love getting maybe Cousins instead of Cook, going KJ and Justin Jefferson with the Mooney bring back. That should be an interesting one. Talk about Irish. I see you got another question here coming in. Crazy question, but with the cold weather versus a dome, Kyler or Josh Allen? Oh, man. So this is one that I kind of had a tough one with as I was talking about my DFS studs. I mean, the weather be damned. Josh Allen, this dude he's a stud. I mean, whether he's doing it on the ground, whether he's doing it, throwing the ball, I think, he definitely has some merit. Kyler, he was my DFS stud. He is playing at home. He's let me down. I love the rushing upside that he's been seeing the past couple of weeks. I had it written down here. He's had 20% design rush attempts in the past 2 weeks per Pro Football Focus. I had touched on that when I was talking about that, and we know that they are kind of playing for something there. Against Seattle at home, he's kind of struggled, but still like getting to Kyler Murray instead of Josh Allen, especially if you're talking about from a DFS perspective. I think Singletary, we didn't talk about him, but Devin Singletary, let's bring up his price. Very favorable, I thought. Yeah, 6,700 at home against the Jets, 17-point favorites. Zach Moss is pretty much an afterthought. You love that he's getting, 20 touches, 18 touches, 23 touches in the past couple of games. And look at this, touchdown upside that he offers there. 4 touchdowns in the past 4. If this weather is not looking great in Buffalo, then I think a lot of merit to get to Devin Singletary today. So absolutely love him and probably would make me lean Kyler more because of the touchdowns. Rushing touchdowns helped out Josh Allen last week. If those go to Devin Singletary, we're talking about a different state. So I would lean Kyler there. Okay, guys, about another minute or so left, and Jessica will come in here. I appreciate you guys rocking along here with the Week 18. We're getting our final taste of regular season football here for the 2021-2022 season. It's been a fun one. Definitely, guys, make sure you are checking out the FanDuel Sportsbook for player props there. A lot of props to be had, and we'll kind of touch on these as well when Jessica comes in. But, boost props, Rams, Patriots, and Chargers to all win is 3-1 plus 300 is what you're getting on that. That's an interesting one. And then Jonathan Taylor to have 100 yards and the Colts to win is plus 100. So that's a fun one as well. And also a lot of fun parlays that you can do with the players scoring touchdowns as well to kind of, up the odds boots. If you have some leans on particular players, just bet on them to score an anytime touchdown and parlay that, and that'll be fun. Guys, again, this is the DFS lineup that I'm rolling out here using all this salary. Got some pivots in the afternoon games that I can make potentially with Keyshawn Vaughn and that Buccaneers D, but loving how the lineup is kind of shaping up right now with Tom Brady, AJ Dillon, Donta Foreman, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Keyshawn Vaughn, Tampa Bay D. Love that. It's going to be a fun one, guys. Week 18 is weird, so feel free to get weird with your lineups. Irish, I'm going to bring you in one last time before we bring in Jessica to talk about best bets on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And you got the last question, AJ Dillon or Jacoby Myers PPR. Well, this one, I know you want to probably lean wide receiver because it's PPR. I'm the one that usually talks about that. But Jacoby Myers is actually banged up. He's questionable. We're not going to know that news beforehand. We do know that Aaron Jones has been ruled out. So I do think AJ Dillon, for all intents and purposes, especially, we think that Aaron Rodgers is not going to play the full snaps, but if he wants to go out there and play, if he wants to put the MVP pretty much trophy out of contention with Tom Brady, we could see him out there, AJ Dillon out there with Aaron Rodgers, and that's always fun to think about there. So I would love getting AJ Dillon over Jacoby Myers 100%. Good luck to you, Irish, and good luck to everybody with your DFS lineups and with your bets today. And with that, I'm going to bring in Jessica here with me. Jessica Gridiron. You can find her on Twitter at Gridiron and Wine. And Jessica, thank you so much for making the time. This is week 18 that we're talking about. This is one that we don't usually feel confident in when we're talking about our bets. There's a lot of weird things that can happen, weird things that happened last night. If you want, kind of want to talk about the way the Cowboys played the game with really nothing to play for, but they're trying to go out there and get Dak records and things of that nature. I'm going to share my screen for the people so that they can kind of see what we're talking about. But Jessica, how are you doing today? And how are you feeling about the state of the betting slate here for week 18, last regular season?
I'm doing good, thank you. And yeah, it's definitely it's been rocky, I swear. Just the beginning of these lines have jumped around so much, and it's to be expected. You know what I mean? How much are these players? The number one player is gonna actually be playing. How much are they not? Right. Just we saw yesterday, it was great watching that Chiefs game, but then the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know. I was like, Dak, you're still in. They were just dominating. I just was it's fun to watch, but at the same time, you're like, all right, we already, this, it's just one of those things where it's going to be interesting how these games are. A lot of them, especially with some of these lines being so high, I just don't, those were the ones I was kind of staying away from. But we shall see. There's a couple games though that I really liked.
Yeah, so I want to definitely pick your brain, talk about that, but we gotta get the shout outs here. Miguel Lito coming in on YouTube already talking about the legendary backdrop Jessica has right there. I mean, you got LeBron James, probably the baby goat to some people, not the goat here in Chicago, but I understand that, love that jersey. Got Aaron Rodgers there, I believe the signed Aaron Rodgers jersey as well too. So a couple MVPs there. You got the Dolphins rocking in the back there, and I believe, I'm not sure, is that Tatis there? Who's the baseball player?
It is, yes, yeah.
Okay.
The sun's hitting on it, but yep, that's Tatis.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, and then I got my Tua in the middle, so we'll see how things roll. But
Oh man.
because I am the Dolphins fans there, and yeah, I'm excited for this Aaron Rodgers jersey, especially if he goes all the way, MVP. They go all the way. I'll see how much this is worth at the end.
Right, exactly. Back-to-back MVPs. I don't believe that's happened since Peyton Manning in 08 or 09 or something like that. I think Manning was the last one to do it. So that's a great jersey to have. Definitely there. You got to keep that one safe. Jessica, I usually kind of, go through the slate and kind of ask, kind of what you're thinking. But why don't you tell me, just with the craziness of everything that's going on, what are bets for you that you're looking at in the noon game slates?
Yeah, so the games that I like this, like I said, going into these matchups has been a little hard, but games that I do like are I like the Arizona Cardinals. And I like the Bear. Well, sorry, I was originally really like the Bears, but now that Andy Dalton's starting, so I'd love your opinion. I'd love your opinion on that. I was almost gonna
Yep.
message you and be like, "Does he really have it?
Yeah,
do I
right.
do I really lay money on Andy Dalton right now?"
Oh my
Um,
goodness, I know, it's not
uh,
great.
yeah, I love the Saints in this matchup.
Okay.
Give me the Raiders Monday night. Let's
Oh
see,
wow.
I'm all over the Steelers too, and other than that, I have a lot of leans. Let's see. I like the Rams too at -3,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I'm still considering the Bears. So tell me if we're on the same side here, or if you should talk me off this choice.
Yeah, well, so I mean, so the Bears Vikings game is interesting because it's already pretty much been reported that Matt Nagy's gone after this game. So the defense is kind of reeling with injuries. The one thing about Andy Dalton is that listen, I'm a Fields guy, Fields truther. Love that we have him. Love that we draft him. I think he's going to be a stellar quarterback for us for years to come. But for this season, Andy Dalton's been really he's been, I don't want to say great, but he's been good at kind of keeping us in games, keeping things alive and taking advantage of the matchups as they present themselves. And this Minnesota secondary has not been great all season long. So you do like that they are healthy to a certain extent. I mean, Mooney's coming back in the mix. Cole Kmet's still out there for him. Maybe, Allen Robinson's been catching a ton of steam. I don't know how people can believe in him at this point, because he pretty much seems like he's done in Chicago, but for whatever, maybe this is a show out game for him to kind of, as he gets into free agency, he can still show that he actually does have it, in that this season's kind of just been abysmal for the Bears. So that's kind of why he wasn't doing anything. But I do think this game is very interesting. I loved it when I think it opened at Bears 4.5, and I loved getting that number. It's 3.5 now. That makes it a little bit weird, but you're still getting the hook there with the Bears. And Mike Zimmer on the other side, like this is one of those games where, like, if the Bears win this game, Mike Zimmer is fired tomorrow. Like, I just kind of believe that in my blood, just them being in the division at Chicago and knowing how people up there in Minnesota are kind of tired of the same old with him. I think even if they were to win this game, I think it's still in question. But this is a fun one to get action on, especially for me as a Bears fan, where we could get two coaches out of the division and it'd be fun.
Yeah. All right. So we're pretty much all on the same page. The same thing I was thinking, especially with the coaching situation. The only thing that honestly had me just not to fully pull that trigger was the Justin Fields situation. But hey, you're the Bears expert, so if you're liking it, I like it too.
Yeah, the homerism might be kicking in a little bit there. So that's that take that with a grain of salt. I think Justin Jefferson has a great game today, so maybe the Vikings put this game out of reach for the Bears. The Bears, Andy Dalton needs a game that's in a neutral game script, or at least within a touchdown, to really feel good about it. If the Bears are down by double digits or more, it's going to be tough for them to crawl out of that hole, because they're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to get short stuff and just take the points as they come. So they're not an aggressive team if they get in a hole. So that's going to be the worrisome thing. You want them to get out to a lead first and then feel really good about having those points there. I wanted to ask you, we're definitely going to talk about some of these afternoon games, because I don't know if we're on the same page or not. But in the noon game, you were talking about Pittsburgh, who's laying 3 points, or Baltimore's laying 3 points. 3-point favorites against Pittsburgh at home. There is some playoff implications here. A lot would need to go right in both of these teams' favor, but they need to win to keep playoff hopes alive. So I know a lot of people have been talking about this game from a DFS standpoint, talking about Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews could go out there and set the tight end single season receiving record. Deontay Johnson on the other side looks like he's in a good matchup going against this Baltimore secondary that's given up a ton of points to opposing wide receivers, opposing quarterbacks. it's interesting. People want to talk about Big Ben, but Big Ben's numbers, could be his last game as a Steeler. So I guess that carries some weight, but his numbers on the road have not been great. And actually, against Baltimore, I could really see this defense and team getting up. So taking the points for Pittsburgh does not have me as excited as it might have you. But what are you seeing, Jessica, that could lean people to get some money here on Pittsburgh side?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of things he's saying. Biggest thing is Ben's last game, and the fact that Tyler Huntley is going to be starting. So this Steelers defense is hungry, and they are playing extremely well. And I feel like they're going to come out and be ready to give it their all. And then you especially look at last week. The Steelers held Nick Chubb to 58 yards, and he really broke away for a 32-yard run, which was more than half than the total yards that he had in his game last week. So they did a really good job containing Chubb, where you look at the Ravens offense, and they're definitely a run-heavy offense. So this goes to show you that they have the ability to be able to contain the run. Now, when you look at the other side of the ball, like we said, this could be Big Ben's last game. So, the whole team could just have that energy, that excitement, the feeling that, they still can make playoffs, things like that. And then another player I wanted to highlight was Naji Harris, who has just continued to play extremely well his rookie season. And kind of a cool little thing I found out, I just wanted to touch on, is about running backs, is a stat with running backs with 300 plus touches by the season. Okay, so you have 2000 to 2007 where they averaged 11 to 19, 2008 to 2013 they averaged 8 to 11, then you have 2014 to 2020 they averaged 4 to 9, and now we're in 2021 and there were only three players, they averaged three, and it's Naji, Jonathan Taylor, and Joe Mixon. So that just goes to show you, how well he's been playing as a rookie, even though with their offensive line being such an issue this season. So he's just getting so many touches. Even that last matchup, Chubb had 12 touches, Naji had 28. So just goes to show you, like, they're going to feed him the ball. When it comes to the Ravens defense, they're just middle of the pack. So we could really see a big game on his side as well. I don't even know what are the lines for him, or I see. Okay, you have it up right now. To me, I even like that too as an option, because I feel like they're just going to keep feeding him the ball. And then Big Ben, he was throwing big bombs last week too, and they were almost caught by his wide receivers. There was just drops and things like that, and so you're just like, I don't know. He has ways to make games exciting, and I feel like for a last hurrah, that's why I like the Steelers in this game.
No, that's fair. Yeah, Ben, it was fun. I had some action on the Steelers there early on the money line, so that was fun. But had a ton of Roethlisberger props for passing touchdowns and Deontay Johnson props, and that was just so infuriating. I mean, 5-6 red zone trips, and you can only put up that number of points. And then Naji breaks one late, of course, when the game's out of reach. Just hilarious. So Pittsburgh leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. But yeah, this will be a fun one. I think this is a great one just for watching purposes. Just so much on this game. I just love what the two teams bring to the table. And Mark Andrews, I did want to kind of touch on him, because just with the incentives and everything been made about incentives for players this week, I mean, him catching a touchdown at plus 160, absolutely love that number. I mean, that is very juicy, especially with Tyler Huntley being back there at quarterback. He's had explosion games with Huntley, and one of his favorite targets, if not his favorite target. So that is a fun one to get after on the sportsbook. As we get here, I can't let some of these go. I'll bounce around back to the noon games here, but we got to talk about the afternoon slate with a lot of juicy games here. And you're talking about the Rams here. You talked about getting them -3. They're now -3.5. So the hook got added there. But Kyle Shanahan has had Sean McVay's number pretty much since they've both been, at San Francisco and LA respectively. What are you seeing with the Rams that makes you confident in having them get the points here against the San Francisco 49ers, who I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play today? So, we could possibly boost up Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, those guys. I do like Eli Mitchell. I do like, who doesn't like Kupp with what he's been doing? He actually has some incentives for him, or not even incentives, but he could actually break some records here if he has a big game, which, he's been having a big game all season. So what's to not say of that? Matthew Stafford had a rough game against Baltimore last week, but he maybe could be in a get right spot against San Francisco. What are you seeing, Jessica, that makes you want to lean Rams here?
Yeah, so I just give me Matthew Stafford and all of his weapons. I mean, I know the Niners have been playing really well, but their defense, I'm not completely sold on their defense, put it that way. And I feel like the
Okay.
Rams have all of the weapons. I got announced that Cam Akers will be starting as well. So I know he's not going to be,
Wow.
from what I read, it's going to be limited, but still they want to get his feet wet. And I think that's great. I don't even know. Yeah, is he on the slate there? As in
I'm look.
any,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just wanted to look to see. Yeah, 350.
That even
Interesting.
could be something. I mean, I don't know. They might plug him in the red zone, and it could be a chance
Yeah,
for him to get a touchdown,
incredible.
which I really, I think that's pretty awesome. And then you got Jimmy G, who's coming off an injury. It's like the Niners, they were so high, but keep in mind that was with Trey Lance last week, and
Sure.
as much as they have some. Not everyone's kind of 100%, especially in the run game, even though that's what they're known to do. How much are you even going to really see when it comes to some of these specific players? And I just feel like the Rams, they just want to clinch that number 2 seed. So they're going to come in, they're going to be ready to play. And I feel like in the end that they'll be able to handle this game.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, they've kind of disappointed some people in recent weeks, but they could definitely, they gotta show something coming into the playoffs. They're going to likely, I mean, everything's going to be going through Green Bay, right? So they could find themselves in a situation where they got to travel into Lambeau, and you got to be beating the teams that you're supposed to beat. So lot riding on Matthew Stafford and his legacy here with the Rams, is they pretty much jeopardize the future to bring him in with trading those first round picks. So this is an interesting game. This is also one that probably is going to have me glued to the TV, and a lot of people as well too, as we get into the afternoon slate there. Before we talk about the Sunday night slate, let's talk about the Seattle and Arizona game here. This game has been talked about ad nauseum in the DFS community here, with pretty much having the highest over under on the slate by a long shot. We've seen in the past, we've seen actually some high week 18 scores, so to speak. But this year has been a lot of low scoring games when you look about the state of the season, and this one coming in at a total of 48. So a lot of people are leaning to this game, but I think I talked about Kyler earlier on in the week, and just the more I think about this game, it's like, okay, this game could go in a weird way where, Seattle, they had an offensive explosion last week against Detroit, but what if they come out here flat, and Arizona, doesn't really need to do much, and they're just trying to get into the playoffs healthy? And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this game. So maybe you can talk some sense into me on how you're feeling about this. Arizona 5.5 point favorites here at home against Seattle. Is there any lean that you have in this game specifically?
Yeah, so I like the Cardinals at -5.5. And it's funny you mentioned the over and under, because I was at first really liking the over in this game.
Okay.
But I definitely decided to stay away because looking at their earlier matchup in the season and it being a divisional game, I really see this game ending more 27-20 or 30-17. So right under that 48. So I decided to stay away, even though it was very intriguing in the beginning. But the reason that I like the Cardinals is look at their defense. It's legit. They have the 6th best defense overall. They can stop the run and they can stop the pass. And even though Russ is coming off a season high performance last week, let's remember now that was against the Lions and they have a terrible secondary. And
Yep.
even though Russ and company put up 50 points, the Lions still put up almost 30. So that just goes to show you how bad their defense is. And they rank 5th worst against the pass. So I expect Kyler to tear apart the secondary in an attempt to win the NFC West. They have a solid run game in James Conner and Chase Edmonds. So as much as, again, might be one of those weird games, and the next thing you know, someone's benched, it's halfway, they've got such a big lead. I mean, we shall see, but I still feel
Right.
like the Seahawks are going to want to be able to keep this game a lot closer than some people might think. But give me the Cardinals in this
That's
matchup.
fair. No, I do like the Cardinals still in this matchup. So 5.5 even. I'd be willing to lay it down there. but yeah, that's an interesting one. We could see it could be Russ's last game as a Seahawk. Lot of narratives to be said there. So interesting one there. If you have leans, get some action there on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Definitely wanted to ask you about two of these other games here in the early slate. I'll spare you with the New England and Miami game. Although if you have a lean, go ahead and throw that down there. But we got the Jets visiting Buffalo, Carolina visiting Tampa Bay here. Now Tampa Bay is 10-point favorites here against Carolina. I mean, Carolina with Sam Darnold has not shown me anything that they can do. The one thing about Carolina is they have talked about Matt Rule. I think it's official, but Matt Rule is coming back as the head coach here for the Carolina Panthers. So, I mean, pretty much everything is going to be status quo with them heading into another year, and we could see that on display here in the final game of week 18. Tampa Bay on the other side, if something happens in the San Francisco 49er or San Francisco and Rams game, the Bucs could lock up the number 2 seat. So they, I think, have a lot to play for. Love Tom Brady. Talked about him as like a guy who I was building around in DFS as of late now because so many implications coming in. How do you feel about the Tampa Bay side of things? You think they could cover this game, or is there some kind of weird stuff that Carolina could do to kind of backdoor here and cover?
It's quite possible, and the Bucks have, I mean, they were almost lost to the Jets last week, so it's
Right.
but if I was to make a play in this game, I would lean the Bucks. And when you look at the Panthers, they have lost 6 straight against the spread. They've only covered the spread once since October.
Wow.
We could see an early lead from the Bucks and then them letting off the gas, so the game could be a little closer than you think. However, the Panthers, they have so many issues to address in this matchup, and it should be an easy win for Tampa. And then when they played each other earlier on in the season, the Panthers only put up 6 points, and the Bucks put up over 30, and that was even with key players out on the Bucks side of the ball. So
Mm-hmm.
but I still have a hard time betting on Brady because he always finds ways to like not cover or just for
Right.
matchups and things like that.
Yep.
Even like last week. So it's one of those things where again it should be an easy win for the Bucks, but this could be a game where something weird could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at these prop lines here. So I mean, like even everybody's pretty much plus money. Rob Gronkowski plus 105, Evans 115. We don't know how much he'll play. Keyshawn Vaughn and Le'Veon Bell, the next 2 favorites at 135 and 195. But Bell's interesting there because I think they try and get him right before they get into the playoffs here. They might need to lean on him if they're gonna, Rojo has not shown that he can be the lead back. That's what kind of birthed playoff Lenny, as I alluded to. So Le'Veon Bell could be in line for more work, and basically, just change out your former Steelers there. You lose Antonio Brown, oh, no problem, we'll bring in Le'Veon Bell, and
Right.
you can just replace that for us. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff to be had there. Let's just look at what Brady's passing props are. So 277.5 for Brady's passing props. That's an interesting line to have it set at. I mean, you've got to be thinking he plays the full game if you're going after that. So interesting one there. I just wanted to pick your brain there. But what about the Buffalo game? They're 16-point favorites against the Jets here at home. A lot of weather's been made. I've seen on Twitter them talking about the rain and just, kind of ugly game there. 41.5 is the line here. Do you have a lean on the over or under, or taking that hefty of a point total with Buffalo?
Oh gosh, that's just so many points, especially for a divisional game.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's the Bills and they love to never let off the gas, the weather can definitely be an issue in this game. I mean, the Bills, they have the edge in this game all across the board. Plus, they're home and they have the fans. It's also possible that we'll see the starters playing this whole game. But the Jets can still put up a fight, and just like we saw last week against the Bucks team, I bet the Bills. I feel like their defense is better. It's just one of those
Yep.
things. It's at the end of the day, it's a stay away game for me, just because again, just these points are just too high. But if I had to make a play, I would say I would take the Bills.
That's fair. Yeah, no, it's tough to get behind that number, but this is the Bills are a team that they could definitely get up there big, and the Jets could have no chance of getting this close, and Buffalo D could make things interesting as well too. So I wanted to talk about that, and as we're going to be getting towards the end here, wanted to make sure I hit on everything before we got to the game. I don't know if we talked about it, but the Tennessee-Houston game, just in this morning slate here, Tennessee now 10.5-point favorites against Houston. I talked about this on the DFS channel here before you came on, Jessica. Like, for DFS purposes, I don't mind taking a shot on Davis Mills with the double stack here. I mean, Tennessee, they do have a lot to play for, and I get that. Tannehill, he's kind of looked a game manager. He hasn't shown anything otherworldly to make us think that they could be, close to 11-point favorites. I do love Donta Foreman here. There's just the revenge narrative with him coming back into Houston and Tennessee being those favorites. I like him, but still a road favorite. That's always, kind of weird to take. But Davis Mills on the other side, I like getting Houston plus 10.5. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, not at all. I like it too, just in the fact because the Titans, destroyed my Dolphins last week. So,
True. Yep.
but yes, actually in this game, I kind of lean the over. I just feel like,
Okay.
just like you were talking about with Davis Mills, I feel like it's possible that Brandon Cooks could have a good game. I don't even know what his, is there any prop bets for him?
Yeah, let's look here. So he's 64.5 receiving yards, which is pretty nice. I mean, considering how Davis Mills has favored him in that secondary there, and he's plus 250 for an anytime touchdown.
Ooh, see, that's something that I like that. And then just so you were talking about Foreman on the other side of the ball with the Titans, it's a good. I mean, he's not Derrick Henry, but he's been playing extremely well. And I feel like this could be a matchup where things could kind of be going on both sides of the ball, especially because the Titans, they don't need to have all their starters the whole time. I mean, most like it's possible. Again, there's so many scenarios where it's like, all right, and then just like we saw last night with the Cowboys game, you know what I mean, and the Eagles, like it's just we could see a lot more we could see a lot more points being put up because key players are not playing. So if I was to make a play on this game, I'd lean the over.
No, that's fair, and I think that's where it comes down to. I mean, the Houston Texans, we've seen pretty much what this team wants to do all season. I mean, they've been dead in the water since week 6. So like there's no reason to believe that all of a sudden now, nothing to play for. Well, yeah, they've had nothing to play for basically all season, but they've still been competitive. And, the number 1 seed, for whatever it's worth, it doesn't mean much for them. And they want to see what Davis Mills has going into next year. This could be a great way to showcase him on a team that's playing pretty much for everything, as they could play for the number 1 seed, Tennessee, that is, with, all the AFC teams having to go through Tennessee to reach the Super Bowl. That's very interesting for me. So I like getting those points there at 10.5. Okay, guys, appreciate everybody who's been rocking along. I know we've kind of been throwing a lot out there, but we appreciate you guys coming in, joining us here for the last regular season breakdown here, the FanDuel Countdown to Kickoff show. Myself, Ryan Williams, and Jessica Gridiron. You can find her at Gridiron and Wine, who's been great joining me on Sundays to talk about the best bets for you guys to win money here on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So we appreciate that. Appreciate everybody who's getting the questions. And Jessica, we cannot, leave the show without talking about this Sunday night football game that pretty much has everything that we would want in it. Both teams are playing to get into the playoffs. I mean, they have to win to get in. I know a lot's been made about, if the Colts lose to Jacksonville, they could tie. First of all, if the Colts lose to Jacksonville, they're not playing for a tie. There's just no way that they're playing for a tie on Sunday Night Football. I just doubt that will happen. Both teams could get in on a tie with the Colts losing. I don't think the Colts lose, so to speak, but, regardless. Okay, we got the Raiders, who are, 3-point dogs here at home against the Chargers. This has been an interesting matchup for both of these teams in the past couple of years. Derek Carr, this guy, I don't know what he has to do to get some love. I picked the Chargers to make the playoffs preseason. I like their, options, but now they find themselves having to win in the last game. Herbert going on the road. I mean, it screams Chargers, but how many times have we seen the Chargers in a letdown spot here? I know not so much with Herbert, but Phillip Rivers years, like that was always kind of a thing. And the Raiders, I don't want to say they deserve this, but the way that their season went, just losing Gruden earlier on, I mean, do we remember that? It's been 18-week season, but, at some point in this season, they did lose their head coach, and now they find themselves in a position here where they could be in the playoffs, with everything that they've been dealing with, all this craziness, and at home, to do it on their home turf. They're 3-point dogs. I know you said you like them. What reasons are getting you to take the Raiders points here?
Yeah, so you have Derek Carr and his accuracy, you have the run game and Josh Jacobs, and then you got Crosby on the defensive side of the ball. The Raiders fans, they're hungry for this win, and at the end of the day, the Raiders, it's pretty easy on how you can beat the Chargers. You just got to run the ball nonstop in this game. So
Right.
give me 3 points in a divisional matchup when the Chargers would they can't stop the run. As much as even if the Chargers were to win this game and they were to go into the playoffs, their defense will not they're not going to go all the way. It's because of their defense. At least to me, when it comes to who's going to the Super Bowl,
Okay.
it all comes down to the defense. And I feel like the Raiders have the better defense in this matchup. Even though Justin Herbert has been playing extremely well, I feel like Derek Carr and company will be able to get the job done.
I like it. I'm liking getting action on that. I mean, we look at the money line's +3 or +136. So we absolutely love that. But if you want to parlay, taking the 3, getting the over there +294, I think that has some interesting merit to it. So that's fun, guys. We're going to get ready to wrap up here on the FanDuel countdown to kickoff show. This is absolutely a fun one. Make sure you get your bets in. We're pretty much at the time now of lock here, with it being noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But we appreciate everybody again who's been coming along with us, guys. We're going to be getting into playoffs. There will be a little bit of a hiatus, but not much here on the FanDuel channel. Make sure you guys are tuned in, following us on Twitter, following us everywhere, so that you know what we're going to be doing for the playoffs as we get you guys some content there, as some money will still be able to be made in the playoffs. And just because this is the last regular season week doesn't mean we're saying goodbye. We're just see you later. So good luck to all you guys here with your week 18 bets, week 18 lines. Jessica, thank you so much for coming along and participating this year with me, and pretty much helping me out with my bets as well on the FanDuel Sportsbook, as we had some pretty successful weeks there. So shout out to you. Definitely want to get that in.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Absolutely. It's been fun. And guys, that's going to do it for the FanDuel countdown to kickoff show. Again, DFS action. If you didn't get it in for the full game slate, you could check out the afternoon slate. There's still going to be some fun goodness to be had, and also single game slate there for the Raiders and Chargers game. But for now, we're going to sign off. Thank you guys so much. For Jessica Gridiron, again, you can find her on Twitter at @gridironandwine. For myself, Ryan Williams, you can find me on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. We will catch you guys next time here on the FanDuel channel. But until then, peace, get this money.